We go. I think we are finally live. Every time I do something like this, OBS has an update. Looks like everything is working. We got 2 viewers right now, 3 viewers maybe. Gonna let this run here for a second. We are working on our OvalWorks truck right now, but we've been working on all kinds of stuff the past few days. Been working on the buggies, been working on the on-road. Been watching a lot of my peeps at the on-road champs up in Cleveland. Shout out to all you guys up there from Norcar RC Raceway and Mansfield RC Raceway. So what's going on, everybody? With the chat going on here. Big thing we're doing right now is we are redoing some settings on the 2025 Resurgence rubber tire truck. Rubber tires, pretty much the biggest class that's going on right now when it comes to oval racing. I've had mixed success. A lot of seconds, some DNFs. That's just kind of the way oval racing goes. That is for sure. So I've been trying to find the tuning window for this truck. We've went back and forth on a few different things. And sometimes you kind of got to push in one direction and maybe come back the other direction. So been trying to catch Travis, the measuring stick hook. He's pretty much the fastest guy around in this class right now. I think at the last Hooters race up at Louisville, pretty sure he gapped everybody in the main by like a lap. It's pretty much his forte on what he's been doing with everybody. I've been close a few times, but as we know, close does not count. So the thing about these rubber tire trucks is they have a very, very large tuning window, but they also can be very, very non-forgiving if you are not within that window, especially as the race progresses from the beginning to the end. So I watch a lot of my footage back and I give up so much time on the first 5 to 10 laps as I wait for the tires to come in. Tried doing things like tire warmers, tried different things when it comes to actual tire prep management. Some of that stuff has worked, some hasn't. So we got the hammer, about to buy a Resurgent for outdoor next year. Outdoor asphalt oval. That would be kind of interesting, maybe. What I'm doing is going back to kind of like my baseline setup, at least on my rear end here. So I go back and forth between, do I like the rear steer pod? Do I not like it? And I'm kind of on the I don't like it right now kick, just because it creates another level of rotation. So if you get into some sketchy moments, then either the rear is controlling the rotation or the front. And, you know, you kind of want the rear to just kind of follow along. So, yeah, asphalt. Interesting. So, what I did to the rear end was I played with rear pod spacing a little bit. And also, I played a little bit with the actual pod height. And pod height has a lot to do with just kind of the overall balance and weight transfer and stuff like that. So, I'm going back to a known pod height for me that works. I've been anywhere from about 6.5 millimeters up to about 7.5 millimeters. And I'm using the regular foam tire pod in the back. Also did a lot of interesting things today with some motor testing with the tunalizer, and kind of looking at my motors again and seeing which one might be best. Of course, we run the USGT motors. So got that, gonna do an actual motor switch. This one, I've got 3 of these bad boys. One of them is shit. 2 of them are pretty good. One of the ones I've been racing. I'm going to one that I believe, according to the tunalizer and everything else, it's just a little bit tighter and a little bit more efficient. It's going to give up a little bit of kV, but without having all of that different phase and deviations and stuff that the other one had. I'm hoping to get like more of a smoother motor type of deal going on. So try to eliminate one more variable. So you're going to have a 17.5 spec motor, spec tire class. Yeah, everything, of course, that we do is on indoor carpet. So that's what we're doing that's what I am doing all of my racing on. So I took like the moonshot the other day. So we did a lot of front end stuff. We did some front end stuff. So basically what we ended up doing was kind of making the rear end more aggressive and making the front end a little bit less aggressive by reducing camber and playing a little bit with the caster settings. And now what I'm going to do, besides changing the motor, is I'm going to put the rear end back into where I felt it was the most stable. And that is with the pod height around 6.8 to 6.9 millimeters. And then the shimming of the pod as well. So these rubber tire trucks are pretty, I would say they're very lenient as far as like your left and right spacing that you can have on the pod. But as I try to say in all my videos and everything, is that gotta have a car that is just easy to drive. If you don't have a car or truck or whatever that's easy to drive, then you're just going to have a horrible day. And we need to make this thing as easy to drive as possible. Easy makes consistent laps. Easy and consistent laps makes faster times. Easy on your batteries, easy on everything. So I kind of had the rear end still set up for when we had a pretty big race at our local track, and we had a lot of grip. So I had really kind of fought with the same thing all day long, and then got to the point where pretty much had a balanced pod going back and forth shim wise. So what I'm going to do now is we are going to go back to more of an unbalanced setup. And it's kind of one of those things that you're just going to have to like figure out for yourself. It's going to depend on grip levels, on carpet levels, all of that kind of stuff. So I was running a 95, and this is going to definitely change. Can't go by like the measurements and shims and all that kind of stuff. It's going to go by different things, because if you're running an oval works car and you're using the foam tire, the rubber tire pod, then your bearings and stuff kind of reseat into this axle holder. So you would actually need more shims, and you would be looking at like your overall width. So when I get everything back together, I can give you an overall width. But pretty much like I said, there's nothing really that doesn't work. It's just, does it work when you need it to? So I'm going back to when I know when the grip is normal, and I can actually tune from there and make adjustments. And then I'm going to leave the front end adjustments what they were, so that way we can actually just tune with the front end and not have to worry about messing with the rear. So I'm going to be going back to 100 on this side and 80 on this side. And we're talking 0.2 shims on this. Assume I am using tungsten weights. Yeah. So for rubber tire weight all up is 39 ounces. So you definitely are going to need, if you're looking to get a resurgence, you're definitely going to want, you can see that I have added weights on here already. So if I did not have the tungsten, which I do, and there's a new chassis that you will get if you buy a resurgence foam tire kit that will have a third pocket right here. If you buy the rubber tire kit, it's a little bit shorter and you will only have two. So this chassis of mine is actually an older version of the resurgence. It's like maybe the one that he brought out like last year. So I've got multiple different versions of the chassis that I can play with. So this is regular length with two pockets. So 2 tungsten weights and then the large tungsten right there. And then I add in some corner weight up here up front, and that's pretty much the only added weight that I have. So between, ESC, battery, everything else that we have on here, we're at like 39.1, 39.2, depending upon what scales we're looking at that day. Now, if you would be running foam outside, tour rules for foam are 36. So, and that would be, well, my older 25.5 stuff, if you wanted to go back on the channel and look at that. The other thing that you get when you move to rubber tire, of course, they're bigger, they're heavier, and then you run, a ball diff instead of like a spool. So I'm assuming outdoors on asphalt, you're going to be running a spool. Not a spool, a ball diff, or maybe you'll get super fancy and pick up something like one of the really super expensive, like X-ray 10th scale gear diffs. I think some other people, I believe, are making some 10th scale gear diffs now. I think Accelerate just came out with one. So You know, gear diff is always going to be the best for any type of variable track condition, unless you have unlimited grip, foam tires, whatever. Then, you know, you can go right to the spool. So I've went through and let's see, we got the pod reshimmed. That's a little bit tight. This off a little bit here. There should be rubber tire. Weight is around 38 ounces. All of weight suggested from the kit with the brass and oval works front end, but I think tungsten might be a better choice. Yeah, you're always going to want to have it all. Unfortunately, you know, well, the good thing is that Bill's actually selling a lot of that stuff now separate. So that really helps out that you can actually purchase some of that stuff, and kind of piecemeal it. That way you don't have to worry about picking it all up at once. Oh, there he is. There is the measuring stick. It's coming for you. I was hoping some of my boys were as bored as I was. So I will say though that I'm not going to say all because I don't want to upset OG Bo, but I will owe a lot of my success to Mr. Travis Hook. That is for sure. So, and he is a pleasure to race with. So, truck was a disaster Wednesday night, Travis. I left the rear end spacing, I think, too aggressive from when we had the high grip the week before, and then raised the pod up a little bit, did some front end geometry changes, took a little camber out, tried to make it a little less aggressive, and it just did not work. So we're going back to the baseline 6.9 and 180. And I think I was at 95. And I'm assuming it worked because it worked at that big race that we had at the Buckeye Brawl because the grip was up. And that's why it worked then. And then it just would not work on a club night. So I also found, well, I'm going back to a little bit of an even caster just to kind of try to get back to some stability. And so I took the night to decide to break in some new tires. So Hammer, if you guys are going to be running on asphalt, man, I would probably try to get your car working, your truck working on CRC tires instead of the accelerates. The accelerates are pretty dang good tires, but we're going through them pretty quick. You know, we haven't really been able to, I don't think, tell that they've actually got like a lot that they get slower, but I think they definitely become a little bit less predictable. So you might have to start chasing the chassis around the tires, which is kind of like the last thing you want to do because you're already chasing the track in most cases on long days because of grip levels changing and just everything else. So it's just kind of like one of those situations you don't want to get yourself in. Yeah, the CRC tires are a little bit heavier. They're definitely a little bit harder. I don't want to give up and say that they're not like ready to be used yet. Like, you know, I would like to maybe give them a shot, but the problem is like when I'm chasing this guy, like I don't have the time to, I don't have the time to like mess around, so I got to basically stick with what works. All right, so we're back to about 6.8, 6.9 on the rear pot height, and we've got our OG spacing back in. Oh yeah, and I tried the rear steer again, Travis, and it just I don't like it. There's just, it creates too many opportunities for things to just bind, you know, like I think like having the front carry the back, I think is the better choice instead of having the back kind of help dictate that. I don't know. The biggest thing that we run into on carpet is that, at least that I run into, is that when we start the first 5 or 10 laps and I look at all my videos, you know, Travis is usually way smoked ahead because his truck just runs consistent from when he pulls the trigger to when he's done. And I see the rest of us all kind of having a lot of the same problems, is that, you know, my first 5 to 10 laps are super edgy, and then the truck really comes in pretty good. At our home track, one corner and one part is a lot worse for me than the other. Corner 1 and 2, there's a lot of unevenness and stuff down there. And I have a tendency just to kind of like do a lot of snap hooking and stuff right there. And it just kind of sucks. So you can't, you know, so you got to feather the throttle and try to get through it and just make it through that first time, 5 to 10 laps until, you know, your tires get warm and the grip starts to equalize and all that stuff. And, you know, when I say warm, you know, we tried the warmers and stuff, and I think it's, you know, just another thing on the bench that got in the way. I quit using them, didn't notice anything for the better or anything for the worse. So kind of is what it is. Had them, decided to play with them. Biggest thing with these trucks, Hammer, is your remote. So if you don't have a good like Sanwa or like a Futaba, there's so much setup in the remotes that I'm finding just for all of my cars, you know, buggies, GT12, the trucks, you know, there's so much stuff that is in there. And Sanwa is definitely hard to understand and all that, but luckily we have this thing called ChatGTP that can explain it way better than any freaking, you know, than any manual can. So that's pretty much like where we're at with that. All right. So I'm good with the rear now. And the nice thing about our class is pretty much always run the same gear. There's really not much to gain either way. I'm going to go back to my safe gearing right now, which is about 85-53. Fairly certain that there is more to gain maybe from going up to like an 87, but I don't want to get a little crazy like I did the other night, just in case I get to make it to race Sunday or Wednesday, because we do got a part of the Ohio State Oval Series at our racetrack on Saturday. So there's a lot of racing going on. Tomorrow, I'll be going and doing some buggy racing just at the local club level. Pretty excited about that. The buggy and the GT12 stuff is just nice because it's kind of just, it's like almost like my time where there's no pressure and I can just kind of have fun, where the oval stuff, you know, I mean, none of us are getting paid to do this shit, but the oval stuff is ultra competitive, and it is one of those things where it's not just like you against the track, right? You know, when you're running buggies and running on road, you don't have to really worry about like some shithead smashing you or somebody wanting to race you during a qualifier. You know, like people, I guess you could just say, are like more respectable. Oval racing, all that shit goes out the door. There's very few people. In fact, our crew is literally our crew is probably the most respectable crew that I've raced with. There's some people out there that are pretty respectable. But you know, you watch, it's kind of the reason why I don't race the Losi NASCAR anymore. And I kind of went back to just running the TTO2, is just because it's just brutal, man. Totally brutal. And brutal just isn't fun. Racing for a while, excited to get back into it. Yeah, I mean, I honestly never thought I would ever like race oval and enjoy it as much as I do, but you know, the bottom line is that like I enjoy, like I have my oval friends, I have my on-road friends, I have my off-road friends, and the weird thing about it is, especially now that like money's tight for a lot of people, and you know, keeping like multiple race programs available. Like I don't have kids or family, got dog, cats, you know, so it's like between just work and everything else, it's already hard enough to try to keep everything going. But you know, if I could just, it's nice to just have like, oh, I keep pointing at it's somewhere. The B7 is like super consistent. I can just go, I can run it, have a great time with it. The Cougar is just something that I'm just dicking around with. The GT12 is very solid, and I'm at the point where I can just kind of like play a little bit more with the GT12 and try to push my skills a little bit more. So that's pretty exciting in itself. Let's see here. Stock receiver bind to a Futaba and Sanwa remote, or do you have to use their receivers? What I've been buying a lot of is, so the first hint is that if you got the money and you're looking for a Sanwa, if we look right now, because my Sanwa actually was giving me a lot of fits, and it was old. It needed the transducers redone on it and all kinds of stuff. So if you look actually here on a main, you can get an M7. And I mean, I know this is a lot of money, so I'm not bullshitting you, but the new M17S's are like $700-800. But you can go on here right now, $449 for the limited edition. Comes with a receiver, a 493 receiver, and they've got their Black Friday code, so you can get 10% off of that. So you might get stuck with the pink one, but that's the one that I got stuck with right here. So, but you know, I wasn't about to pay $700 for a brand new Sanwa. But what I've been using a lot of, because you know the Sanwa receivers are, you know, they're pricey, you know, for sure. And it's not like this is much better, but you know, $75 for if you want FH5U and FH5, which is your highest, fastest latency. You can get the FH4 for 64. So these are the one-ups that I've been using. And you can see that's what we got in the truck right here. And I have to use FH5 protocol in order to use SXR protocol, which basically means that this talks to this in the most fastest way possible. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. There's some other knockoffs that I've seen, but the one-ups, I've pretty much been only buying the one-ups now. The old Sanwa ones, I've got a few of them around. The cases just keep on breaking. Yeah, here's one right here. So this is one of their cheaper replacements, the 49T, which if we look and see how much that is, it'll do FH5. So it's 63 bucks, which is cheaper than the one up. It will do all of the super response modes that I was talking about, but I've had a couple just take a shit on me, and it's the same thing. Like you, take your double-sided tape and stuff like that and stick them in here. And then if you want to swap them and take them to different models, the cases are just brittle and they start cracking. This one here, like, lost a piece of its antenna. So just kind of is what it is. But that's pretty much a good deal though. $450, 10% off, 400 bucks, and you're getting $120, $125 receiver. Like, that's, you know, that's pretty good deal. And I've seen that inventory actually keep shrinking down. So eventually there's not going to be any of the regular M17s left. All you're going to be able to get is the M17S's, which, yeah, right there's the M17S, $750 for that bad boy right there. So it's got a little bit more features built into it. Like, the only thing that really interests me is, you know, there's a setting in here in your SANWAs called feeling. And I know it's counterintuitive because you want the best protocol, and fastest response between you and your receiver. But there's a setting in there called feeling that actually will add some latency to the control signal. And it's a very powerful tuning thing that I use for pretty much everything. And you get 7 steps of feeling settings in the one that in the M17, and I'm not sure how many you get in this one. I watched a Hagberg video on it. I think it's like 12 or 15. There's some other software things in there that are pretty nice. Other than that, my M17, the new one, the limited edition one, came with USB-C charging. The battery doesn't last as long as my old M17 did, which kind of sucks. You know, but it's still the same thing. You know, there's, you're paying $750 for a freaking remote control. You've got no Hall sensors built into them. You know, you've got bargain and I don't know, like, you've got bargain and shit in like these great remote controls. And I don't really fly drones anymore, but like, I had $150 Radio Master FPV drones that had, you know, 3D Hall effect gimbals and all that kind of stuff in there. So that way you don't have to worry about floating pots and all of that kind of stuff. At the end of my SANWA's life, I was pretty much recalibrating it almost every time at the track and then having to redo my speedo. So, and then it just got to the point where like I kept recalibrating it and kept recalibrating it. And I remember like going and looking at somebody's, might have even been Travis's, I can't remember, but his like calibration top number was like 25, 30 points higher than mine. So really I was like losing like all of this like resolution on both ends of the stick. Even though you can calibrate to that, you know, you're still like losing that. And then it was having trouble grabbing the lower end of the calibration. And then when I would let go of the stick things would kind of, you know, jiggle back and forth. So let me catch up on the comments here. So Australia, nice. Did I just hear you're not racing? I race it sometimes. I mean, it's just, yeah, it's fun. It's really fun, but you know, like if Travis would just like quit racing, then I wouldn't have to worry about like messing with this truck all day trying to like catch him. So, you know, then maybe I could race the Losi NASCAR. But no, I'm getting back in. I like racing the TT02 in oval a lot better than the Losi NASCAR. I'm going to make a video for people about the Losi NASCAR because, you know, I know there's things that people are doing out there, things that I have done to make mine a little bit faster. And some of the things may or may not be box stock, but they also have not been checked at tech at any race that I go to. The only thing that they check is voltage. So I mean, when you watch some people's cars go around the track and you notice that their left wheels aren't flopping up and down, they're pretty cemented to the track, then you pretty much already know what they're doing. And it might have something to do with the Dremel, and it might have something to do with the springs on the left side of your car. Also might have to do with maybe putting some O-rings inside of some of those shocks in order to kind of limit how that stuff works and moves. So you may or may not have heard that here. Also, chop the shit out of your rear wing. It's dead weight. You don't need it. Just leave a little lip there. Nobody will ever know. Nobody's noticed mine. So there's you some speed secrets for the Losi NASCAR. Definitely spend the money on some of Andy's sort of fast steel bearings though. Just because you take so many hits and those bearings are the most solid bearings that you're going to get. They're not going to just like destroy themselves. You're going to be able to take some hits because taking it all apart and putting it back together, especially the hubs and all that stuff, is a huge pain in the ass. If you're running oval, don't worry about diff fluids. Just run them and just keep running them. Same with the motors. Just run them. Don't worry about any of this water break-in, hoodoo voodoo, or any of that stuff. The real guys that have figured it out, I believe, have figured out a way to open up the can and seal the cans back together, because don't ask me how I know, but I may or may not have tried to advance the timing on a few of my motors, and I might have broke every one that I tried to fix, or the guy told me that he was trying to do it. You know what I'm trying to say. So there's definitely a lot of foolery going around out there. So that's why I don't race the Losi NASCAR really anymore. I'll run it with my buddies here who I know are not doing stuff like that. But like at other races and all that stuff, it just clogs up my bench. And, you know, this thing right here has got me occupied at the same time. So it's pretty much where we're at with that. I still got it though. I got everything. So you never know what's going to happen. Oh, let's see here. Would you recommend jumping to one of the $500 kits right away, or will a battle axe at 330? Well, like if you really want to run the rubber tire truck, I would buy a TCR and get a hold of Mr. Travis Hook right there and ask him to build it for you for a nominal fee, because he's got the secret. I mean, I love the Oval Works. I'm going to keep running the Oval Works. But you always are going to want to get, there's a guy that bought a battle axe that's around us. The problem is he's the only guy that has the battle axe. Is there things that carry over from truck to truck? Yes, but I have parts for everybody. Everybody has Oval Works parts for me. If I need parts, I can get them from Bill and Melissa in like a day. The cost of entry on, and I've mentioned this in a lot of my videos, like this is not like, you know, where is, hold on. Thing that I always try to get through to everybody is this right here is not this. Like you're going to pay $600-700 for like your kit with like your tsunami front end, your tungsten on the underneath, and all of that kind of stuff. And like besides your motor and electronics and stuff, that's it. Like you don't need to buy, there's no hundreds of dollars in hop ups that you get, that you have to get on these oval cars, like my B7. I mean, there is no, this B7 is pretty much like all R1. There's Schumacher collars, there's upgraded shocks, you know, there's just all of this stuff. So, I mean, you end up spending, and I know people just like, I don't know what it is about the buggy thing. Like people just love to like spend and upgrade and spend a bunch of money on their buggies. I get it. It's cool. But like, this is like the one-time purchase. All you're going to be doing is buying a body, buying tires, maybe some spring sets, things like that. So the cost of entry is more, but like once you're in, you're in. Like you don't need to go and buy the aluminum this, the titanium that, and all of that kind of stuff. So it's literally the buy once, cry once scenario. So hopefully that makes sense. And I see Travis said anything but the CRC, and he would probably agree with what I said. You know, it's kind of like the buy once, cry once thing. So hit run the feeling past 5. Yeah, it depends. And it's nice to be able to tune the feeling differently for throttle and for steering, because everything is a little bit different, which is pretty freaking nice. So I am running the SXR servo. I've ran MKS as well. I know I like running the MKS in my GT12 because it's just a little bit smoother. And I don't take as much abuse. So the SXR can take more abuse. So I know like, Travis has said that he has stripped out some gears inside of his MKSs. I've stripped out some gears inside of mine. This SXR, you know, these SXRs are the same. The one that's in this truck and the one that is in my other truck that I was kind of messing around with Breakout. They're the same SXRs that I've had since I started 12 scale racing in like 21 or 22. So they've got thousands of laps on them and tons of hits and everything, and they're just fine. So take that for what you will. It's another one of those buy once, cry once scenarios. But don't think that if you have a budget, I would rather you spend your money on a better chassis and get the chassis up and running with the $100 like MKS HV50 for sure. You like, you know, don't take that $140, you know, and think that, well, we'll just go ahead and get the CRC because then we can put the SXR in it and this and that. And I'm not anti CRC at all. I mean, I've got, you see metrics right there. Even though a lot of my metrics parts are Synergy RC, and Awesomatics parts, but that's just kind of stuff that actually now CRC is putting in the Metrics 2026 kit. So, you know, it just took them a while to evolve because they didn't want to release a kit every time that they came out with new stuff. So, what What's going on, Tim? Good to see you, brother. So let's see. You just bought one, and I was a big part of the choice. Was that, are we talking low C, Tony? I'm trying to keep up with, yeah. I mean, look, it's a great freaking deal and a great car to run for sure. So, and a lot of my old videos, like, I really wouldn't pay much attention to all of them. My biggest thing is find out what your track rules are and find out how you can bend those rules as close as you can. So I think I gave some pretty good hints, and you know, like I said, it's in this tote right here with all of its stuff ready to go at all times. So let's see, where were we? So now I'm trying to figure out. That's why. We put the wrong pinion gear on the car. This is my GT12. So I got a Hobby Wing tunalizer today and was doing some motor testing. So I had one of the Sky RC ones before, which I always knew was going to be, well, I still have it. I always knew it was going to be like kind of junk. But you know, it was $100 and it was kind of close. But now that I've got like these motors and we've got all these GT12 motors and all that kind of stuff and trying to get that stuff up and running and everything, I figured what the hell, I would just go ahead and pick it up. And it's a pretty nice setup. I probably might have got a modalizer, but you can never get them. And you know, I'm kind of glad I didn't spend the $500 on one. So I keep grabbing the wrong side tools. I think it sucks between having metric and freaking standard tools and shit on these cars. It's kind of annoying, but it is what it is. Yes, you did get banned. You had that cheater car, man. You know, like, what can we say? You were running all those option parts that you couldn't even buy back then. You know? I got your back, man. People forget their history. You couldn't even find any of that shit. I wanted a bunch of that stuff just to play with for like on the channel and stuff like that. Rick was totally cool with me, like testing out parts and everything and just not running it and racing it with everybody, which is fine. But I never got to, because this time last year, none of that stuff was even, they didn't even start getting any of that stuff in stock until like, I believe after Chinese New Year this year. So like in May. So, all right. So the rear end's done. Just got to resolder in the motor. I don't really want to do that on camera. So I think what we will do is we will play with the front end a little bit. Yeah, I know, Tim. It's freaking, you know how these people are. You've been doing this shit a lot longer than me. We don't have our rubber tire class doesn't have a limited gear ratio. But like the way that the USGT motor and stuff works, man, is like you're literally just gonna find you're going to find a gear that works, and that's pretty much it. You might be able to go up and down on the spur a little bit just to kind of change the rollout, like slightly. That's like kind of like where I'm at right now. But you know, like I run an 85-53, and if I put a 52 on it, it's just dead as shit. And if I put a 54 on it, then it's a super hot beast for like a minute and a half or 2 minutes. And then after that, like the fade is just for real. So now, one thing that I'm definitely interested in trying at some point, only because I have a shit ton of extra CRC parts and an Awesomatics 12 scale as well, is I'm super interested in at some point when things, I don't know, calm down or equalize, into doing the whole NAS truck thing I've seen online. So it's basically everything GT12 with like a truck body on it. So that is really appealing to me. So is anybody doing some racing this weekend or what? I know I'll be doing the buggy jumpity jump stuff tomorrow. I could go race trucks with the boys Sunday, but I'm on the fence about it. I am getting it ready just in case, but I mean, is it ever really ready? Sure the hell doesn't seem like it. Yeah, I'm pretty surprised that they're gonna. Well, it only makes sense that they're doing it, that they're finally gonna leave the oval like up for a month and then change to on road for a month. But I don't know. I'm gonna assume the only reason why Bruce is doing that is because his off-road business has probably picked up a ton since they got that new carpet. So and his on-road stuff is probably in the tank right now. So he's probably looking for a way to just get something else going on. So like every spoiled RC creature, we go to the Hootie. The Hootie never lies, even though it will be different than every other setup gauge that you probably have. Most people will swear by calipers and all that kind of stuff, but this, I've always used this. The OG Bo told me to quit using it. I quit using it. Travis said start using it, so I started using it. So I listened to what the fast guys tell me. And the good thing about the Hootie is that it's repeatable. So, and again, it never lies. So I'll always just go ahead and I will reset my trim for the night. And then I will go ahead and do my camber and tow. So the other night I typically was running what Travis has suggested, which was straight up 0 degrees on the right and 1 degree out on the left with 3 degrees of camber. So I stayed at 0. I went to about a half and I went to 2 degrees, which should make the front end less edgy. So I think, unless Travis wants to correct me, because I'm always open for suggestions, I think I want to keep it that way now that I have the rear end back to what I feel is like my baseline safest front end. Because if I notice that the car is not edgy or too edgy, whatever, then I can always at the track throw it back on the hoodie, and then I could like increase my camber or increase my tow. So, and then, inside of the radio, I mean, right now we're at an 18 of dual rate. We're at a minus 83 on our steering. We are at 6% of steering expo, which on the M17, it actually, believe it or not, positive expo on steering on the M17 actually smooths out your center. It does not decrease the center. It's very weird when you look at the curves on what it actually does. You would think that it would like dull it, but when you put in the negative expo, you're messing with the beginning of the range and not the middle. Positive actually messes with the middle. So it kind of smooths that out a little bit. And then feeling is at 6S. And then I think for throttle, we pretty much haven't done anything except for I have done the EPA trick just in case I have to like let off throttle. So I calibrate the ESC to a 90% EPA, and then I will raise my EPA on here to about 125 to 130, just so that way, if I have to, if the car just is not like, if there's just too much grip and I have to feather the throttle because I'm starting to like, I could see that it's wanting to do a little bit of a hook snap on me, then I don't have the best trigger finger. So, it's going to kind of smooth that out a little bit and not make it so jerky for me. So I guess you could say I'm letting off less and rolling back onto the throttle smoother by doing that kind of a calibration. And that's just something that I learned kind of from the on-road guys for the GT12 stuff. All right, so we're 0 degrees there now, and ooh, we got a lot. Yeah, we're over 1 there. Yeah, the Indiana crew was here for our race, man. They were here for the Buckeye Brawl. Lash and Rorschach. All right, so camber wise, have to get out the real old man glasses here. Ah, these old sucks. So I'm at a very weak 3 right now. So let's just take it to 2 and stick with my original plan, which is try to make the front end a little bit calmer. Yeah, I saw you running the UDR, man. Saw you smack a pole too. Or maybe that was your brother. All right. So that is the game plan. So straight up and 2 and 2. And then what did we settle on for toe here? We're at like a week 1. So I'm going to go, just going to go to a half. I promised myself that I was going to leave the rear end at the baseline and just kind of play with, do these front end changes. Man, I'm totally going the wrong way. Thought it was moving the wrong way. A little bit more. When you get into these like halves, it's always kind of a pain in the ass. All right, there we go. That's a half. We're going to call that a half. So that's good. And then what we'll do when we get to the track is just do our usual thing. We'll just run it, do some trimming, and that's good. So that's how I set up all my cars. That way it's just repeatable. I do the same thing with my buggy. Like, these setup stations aren't cheap. That's for sure. The good thing, I guess, about this one is that it is a 12th scale and a 10th scale. So I'm lucky that I get to use it for my trucks and for my GT12. So that is, that's lucky for me. Unlucky for me is that I also have one for my buggy. I think that one was, whew. Let's see. How long have we been, no champs for me? No. I got the dog, man. It's hard to like do anything with the dog. I already get enough help from like my aunt and stuff like that. So, and I'm not going to board him and everything. I just got done. He just got over a sickness. So I'm not going to like throw him for a whirl. That's for sure. So all my friends are up there though. The whole Norcar crew's up there. I've got a buddy from Mansfield up there running. So I was watching some of them earlier. I think Andy did really good. And I think he was like, I don't know if he was TQ, or not with, I think he's running 25.5 touring car. I think he's running front wheel drive. Yeah, I mean, it just, you can't. Like, it just, you know, they got to be fed and taken care of. And, oh, man, you know, like, you just kind of is what it is, you know, and he's like the only thing in life that doesn't let you down, your dog. So, you know, you hate to, he likes to hang out and do shit too, but it's supposed to snow and everything. So I just relubed and did my kingpins last weekend. So just real nice and easy to clean out some of the carpet fuzz. Probably, I mean, I always usually try to throw something back on while I got the tires off, but it's not like it's going to matter. So I do have a set of accelerates scrubbed in though and ready to go if we want to rock and roll this Sunday. Johnny, what are you following me in racing? Are you into, is it like GT12? Like, I don't think I've ever seen like a comment or nothing from you. And you're talking about going to the champs. Or is this, or are you a John A. No? And hit the mute button. Hit it with my elbow right there. Phelan, did you give up all racing and sell all of your stuff? And in case you didn't hear me, I was going to say John, because I'm just like, only makes sense, but then I didn't want to and just look like an asshole. Oh, you didn't sell nothing? Yeah. What about, did Scott sell all of his stuff? Like, or is he just refreshing the fleet? Yeah, I know you do the big car stuff. Oh, well, yeah. All right. So he's just doing a refresh. Hopefully he ended up getting that 25 figured out. I know he was huge into that slot car stuff. I remember being up there and doing oval practice, and the slot car guys were making fun of us oval guys, saying, "Boy, that looks boring." And I was just like, okay. Nothing like a bunch of old guys with tackle boxes making fun of a bunch of RC guys. Holy shit. It's like, what kind of reality we living in? Yeah, I was talking. Well, Dutch is up there running too. In fact, let's go to live RC right now and see where our buddies are. Oh, what is it called? Like carpet? Oh, on road. Damn it, it came up earlier. Ah, there it is. US Indoor Champs. View current events. Damn, they're still not even done with the second round of qualifying. Holy cow. Let's see here. Elwood is running 1/12 unmodified. I saw Butters was doing really good. So let's see, 1/12 rubber tire. Rick's running this. Where's he at? Rick's in 8th. So this is like a GT12 with a 17.5 motor. So, and then 1/12 stock. Butters was in 10th. Kyle, Zach. And then I think Radicky was, so Zach's here. Hey, Zach's beating Martin Hootie. That's pretty cool. There's Kyle. Andy is 3rd. F1. Ron is in 14th. Dutch is in 20th. Dante didn't run. Chuck is in 25th. Andy's in 5th. And Zach, man, how many classes is Zach running? Holy shit. GT12. Radicky was in 7th. That was round 1. Round 2. Oh, I think that is the overall results. Anyway. Cool. There's our buddies tearing it up. Do they run 3 rounds of qualifying too? I know there was like 50, when they're like 55 or 56 freaking heats. Yeah, 56. Holy shit. Oh man. I don't know. I don't know. It's just a lot for me to think about. That's a long time. It's a lot of racing. Two today and 2 tomorrow. I would have to say that I would like to just go up there and do it for the experience. And I would definitely do it for on road right now compared to off road, just because I really need to get to some bigger, I really need to get to some bigger off road tracks. Like my big track off road carpet experience is pretty limited. Even though I don't know how big of a track they could actually even make up there. I don't imagine it could be super huge. Three years ago, when you were a kid, you still are a kid. You're in a hell of a lot better shape now than you were 3 years ago. Now's the time to do it, brother. It's like me. I'm in way better shape than I was a year or 2 or 3 years ago. Let's see here. This is when Flux is your friend, but I can't find any. Go to Snowbirds. No, thank you. Won't have to, man. We got the Tour Nats coming to Norcar next year. They'll all be coming to us. Yeah, I know. I can't find my Flux. I think I found like an old, I was dicking around with it earlier, and I think I found like an old Flux pen that wasn't worth a shit. Barely couldn't even get the freaking cap off of it. It was so dry. Make sure there's no hangers anywhere. Now I reach the boring part of the stream where I have to solder. I just want this thing done. I need to put it back on the shelf. Maybe make a video about how I've got my ass kicked by Travis for the past month or two. That pad there. Does not want to get hot. Hello, baby. There we go. All right. Hammer, do you have any idea what spur gear comes with the Resurgent? Absolutely none. But you will be running. Well, you should be running 64 pitch gears. You don't have to. Some people convert to 48. You'll be getting things like this, which are all your pinion gears, which I only have so many of these because this is pretty much my 25.5 truck gears, my GT12 gears, and then really this is the only gear I need for this truck right here. So like I said, 85.53 right now, but I probably will go up on the spur. So I think that's the next move, but I want to make sure that all of this is nice and stable first. Yeah, I don't understand. Did the new motors come out that made all the old ones obsolete? I don't think I think all of the motors, I know at least for Oval John, nobody has made any official changes yet until the start of next season. So the start of 26. Now for the on-road stuff, I'm not sure. I think the biggest battle that I think we've seen locally is about tires, because I think certain places were, oh shit, looks like my camera froze up. That going again. That going again. I think that I've got a wonky USB cord here somewhere. There we go. There's that one. There we go. We're back. I think that people were trying to eliminate inventory of certain tires before they went back and allowed other tires to be ran. So it depends on, so Hammer, I think it depends on which kit that you get. And it should be spelled out that if you get the rubber tire kit, I think Bill gives you the gear diff. I don't think he gives you the spool. We can go on there right now and look. By the way, he's got like assembly videos on here too. So good luck finding any of that other shit. It's one thing I always preach about Oval Works is that hard finding information about other stuff. So let's see. So if you did the rubber tire kit, yeah, so that rubber tire kit right there, that's what you want. This is where the price starts going up because you want that. You want that. And depending upon what servo, let's just say that you went with the Sandwell servo, and you definitely want KSG shocks and a truck bumper because you got to pick one. So you're at 670. So you got all that stuff right there. But I am going to argue until in the next couple weeks, we should know a few more things. I have found more success running the Resurgence with the Tsunami, the Trunk Bubber, the Tungsten, the Diff, and KSG. Same price. And the difference between the two is that you get the foam tire pod, which is their one-piece pod, and you get the longer chassis kit, which has the updated chassis. It's 1/4 inch longer. And if you look at the chassis, you'll see that you got that third weight pocket right there. And for rubber tire to make weight, like now that he's got so he's got tungsten, brass, and aluminum slugs. So if you do rubber tire, you're going to get this chassis, but like I said, this is an older chassis that is the same length as this 3-pocket one right here. If you get the rubber tire car, you are going to get the shorter chassis. So it's shorter pretty much from like here back. So it's like a 1/4 inch shorter. And then you are going to get the foam tire pod, which axle pod, which is a little bit higher. And I don't like it though, because everything sets inside. And so your bearings are encased, and then it kind of like, I like having the foam tire one. I'm just going to leave it at that. And then I'm running the straight up plate, not the rear steer plate. And you definitely want KSG side shocks because they're pretty much the best shocks that you can get. They're a build it once and not really have to touch it very often type of thing. So yeah, and when you buy the kit, so this is the thing too, is like, I'm going to assume that when you buy the kit, you are going to get everything that you see. I've never bought a diff. I think you're just going to get the diff. Like, I think you are going and you get all your screws and everything else. And then I think you are going to have to buy, yeah, you're going to have to buy bearings, and that kind of stuff. So you can look at the instructions and see what they have, but I don't think you get, I think bearings is one thing that you don't get. So, which he sells like speedball bearings. What I buy for bearings is just the multi-packs of the tubes of the CRC bearings. Like, that's what I use. I've got like some accelerates. These are not worth the money. I'm always going to recommend Andy's stuff is sort of fast stuff. They're they're priced very well, and they just run and they just last. Unfortunately, you know, with my luck and the rubber tire class, you know, some of the heats are less aggressive than others. So if you know, you take a shot, like your bearing is going to be usually the first thing that kind of gets hit. So, man, it looks like we're a few minutes. The delay is like real. Looks like we're a few minutes behind here on everything. So, but you know, if I've got just the CRC bearings on here right now. And I mean, you know, it just spins and spins and spins. You know, I don't know how much more you need it to spin other than that. I'm kind of pissed off my camera keeps going out on my upper camera. I did some PC upgrades a few weeks ago, and the first time I've kind of done any, well, I had to do some OBS stuff, and then I haven't been so busy at work. Like now it's all kind of calmed down a little bit, but I haven't done like any freaking YouTube videos or anything. But there's some things in the works. There'll be some a lot of content coming, that's for sure. Plus just having time. So I figured tonight would be good just to throw up a freaking live stream at like 5:30. It's like, what the hell? Got nothing else to do. I'm going to sit here and wrench. I might as well like be talking to my peeps. Got tons of J&T bearings. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so I mean, I don't really have any. I mean, there's no fluff on here. I mean, there's center shock, you know, everything that we talked about. I mean, the only thing that I did do, my overhead camera is like screwing up, but I keep the aluminum screws in the front bumper right there just because, you know, they break. They're kind of like a breaking point. But then I switched everything out to like steel screws just because they don't strip out. They don't freaking get all messed up. And like you got to make weight anyway. So I've got steel screws all over except for like those right there on the bumper. I've got like extra long ones here because with the tsunami and the rubber tire shims. So I've got the rubber tire shim kit on this side, which is two spacers. And then, you know, like I'm not going to say that like once you buy a kit from Ovalworks, you're not going to buy anything else from them. You're just going to like start buying stuff. So I've got like their whoever makes that, I don't know if Dustin makes it for him or not, but the servo horn, and then what else was I looking at on here? I've got like Andy's sort of fast ball cups. And oh yeah, his spacers, which are super cool and nice because I don't know why everybody doesn't do their spacers like this, but instead of using like freaking circles and fighting with that shit and all that stuff and trying to shim up your stuff, he makes carbon fiber shims for you to shim up your front end, kind of like what my old X-ray 12 scale did. So you just stack these up and slide them underneath to shim everything up. Way easier. And then you'll end up buying like some extra body posts that I got. You know, there's just stuff that you just end up collecting. You know, I've got tons of screws I'll never use. And then I've got my, you know, box of like just extra. Oh, that's my GT12 one. I've got this box here, which is pretty much just like axle spacers and all that stuff's cheap. It's like $2-3 for like whatever. Bearings, diff balls, spur gears, and springs. So, and here is just like kind of like my extra parts. Like I just got another set of KSGs because they only make them a couple times a year. So that way I've got a backup set, and I've got, this is just a collection of having all of the stuff because I was running foam tire and everything else. So I've got like their spring kits. I've got like another pod. I've got spools, you know, spring steel plates. I have a HV50 that is already mounted up and ready to go. I've got another HV50 in here. I've got my bearings, tubes in here as well. And then like, you know, a couple bumpers, lower tsunami arms. The thing about oval stuff is like, they only, besides the stuff that, you know, Bill and them make for themselves, they, you know, a lot of this other stuff people only make like a couple times a year. So I've never ran into a situation where I didn't have something that I didn't need, which is kind of like a good thing. So all I'm going to do is just clean these tires up with some simple green and put this baby on the shelf and call it good. We're all ready if I end up making it racing Sunday, which I don't know if I will. I feel like I really need to. Like I really need to like spend some time with this truck and get some confidence back in it. So like I said, I've been through a couple extremes of things that I know that work and things that I know that don't work. So, but we're good. The car's ready to go. Tires are good and ready to go. What gear diff are you talking about, Tim? The one that Cyril came out with, the Prodigy gear diff. Like you can't run a gear diff in freaking rubber tire. You got to run a ball diff. It could be run a gear diff. It'd be kick ass because that would really make life a lot easier. That would fix a lot of those janky corners and everything else that we get caught into. Oh, dude, these tires are they're so bad. It doesn't even matter. Balancing makes no difference. It's a waste of time. They're just it sucks because they're fast, but they're just shit. So there's what they end up doing. They end up getting like these rings of death on them, where the tire pulls away from the sidewall, and then they just blow. They'll eventually just blow apart. So they're horrible, but they're great. They take about, I don't know, a heat or two to like break in, and then they're money. And you know, like I just ran these one night. This thing start working yet? So just one night of racing, and the lines are still on them. All the sheen is almost gone, but eventually you can already see that you're starting to get that ring of death. So the problem is that we, you know, like always want to go out on, you don't want to always, I don't know. I try to look at the positives, which is it's still cheaper than foam, but I think a lot of people, I mean, the rubber tire class last week was the biggest class that there was. I mean, I think there was 35 entries, but all of Accelerate's compounds are pretty much doing the same thing, which sucks because like here's their GT12 tires. Literally 2 races on these things, and I have no edges on either side now. Everything's starting to smear, and like, you know, you need like front grip on GT12, and it's the same thing. I've never seen this even happen on rear tires before, but you know, they're basically ballooning out. Well, they're not even ballooning out. They're like ballooning it. I don't know. So I went back to the gravities on the GT12, and I would like to try to get the CRCs running on this, but I just can't take the chance right now because I know these work. I know what I got, and that's kind of like where we're at. So Travis has forced my hand, forced all of our hands, just straight whipping everybody's ass in this thing. Literally. Said I've got close a couple times, but I fail and he doesn't. And that basically means that you don't win. And, you know, with this stuff, there's no like magic combination of gearing or new tires or anything that is going to close the gap. Like you need a truck that is consistent, that you can lean on from start to finish, and you can't make any mistakes. And that's that's a hell of a thing that you have to ask for. And I mean, that's pretty much asking for everything, you know, like you got to run, he forces you to run the perfect race. Which I love it, you know. Second place, third place, whatever. If I take second place to him, it's like taking first, because it's just how it is. And he's my boy, so I want him to keep on doing good. The OG raced with us. Once he saw that he couldn't beat me or Travis, he quit, went back to foam tire. So I always have that. Travis is running a TCR. There's just something about it. I don't know. I mean, every time we talk about it, it's like there's nothing special about it. It's just combination of everything. So, but everything that he has told me to do to mine when it comes to this and that, it's made my truck faster. You know, I just can't, you know, I'm just missing that little bit of something. So, but like, you know, he's the one that suggested get rid of the rear steer, you know, run the straight up pod, do this, do that, and it just works. And you know, it does it well. But going back to the original point, Hammer, like I'm just not gonna, let's see, how can I say this? Old dumb Chad would have bought one of those thinking that I could have bought one, built it, and ended up beating him. But older smart Chad knows that that just isn't the truth. So I think he runs TCR. I don't know. I can't remember if his foam tire truck is TCR too. I think he's running the same thing. And it just makes sense to. I think that's the biggest reason why we saw the rubber tire explosion that we've seen this year is that so many people were already running like Ovalworks trucks. And, you know, I remember last year when there was kind of a hubbub because people were running 25.5, which was supposed to be a sportsman class, and like 21.5, but they weren't allowed to run like 25.5 and like 17.5, like a more advanced, and they're still not allowed to. But like it only made sense because like it's kind of like why I, you know, that one up there I turned into a breakout and I got a TQ in breakout and then finished freaking last. Like I don't even know how that happens. But you know, it's like you've got enough shit to like make 2 trucks and you're there like all day. So why not just you know, why not just freaking run it? But yeah, Tim, you know how it is. I talk about it all the time, like drag car, how all this shit started. I mean, anytime Voodoo's come on sale, freaking $400 right onto the credit card. Anytime those new batteries came out, SMC, R1, whoever, everybody had to have it. New body, boom, done. Didn't matter. Those were crazy times. This is like freaking, this is like AliExpress RC pricing compared to how that shit used to be. But I wouldn't have never met you. I wouldn't have never, I mean, those were messed up times, man. Freaking COVID started and we were all locked away. And I just happened to buy a Slash just so I could go and start racing with Rick and those guys. And then they shut the place down. So none of this would have happened. Like absolutely none of it. So I'd be, who knows what I'd be doing. Definitely not going to say I would be richer because I'm sure I would have found something else to spend my money on. So I need to reset the workbench here. Got stuff everywhere. Get stuff packed up for tomorrow. So the B7 is done. The only thing I did on it was change the diff. So I've been slowly working my way back up in diff fluids, trying to find that magic place where rotation just goes away, on and off power. So man, we've been doing this for almost 2 hours. Wow. Live streams always go fast. At least I got a lot of shit done. Nice having people to talk to too. Way easier than editing a video, even though I need to do some of that stuff too. There's so much stuff to talk about. People won't watch live streams. And my biggest thing is to try to kind of help some people out. Oh yeah, drones. No more drones for me. Avata 2, that's it. Even though I did see the new Avata is supposed to be pretty damn sweet. Only problem is it'll be banned. Won't be able to get it here in US of A. So I think we are pretty good tomorrow. We need a B7. This is all Ovalworks. Got new front tires. Can throw a set of got oils. Talk about this dirt bag for a second. Trying to get rear motor going at Mansfield. I have no idea why. This is one of those impulse buys. So this is the Cougar 2 Works, and it's been through a war already. So, you know, this aluminum thing and carpet doesn't mix very well. So what I ended up doing was skinning the entire bottom with 1.5 mil of carbon fiber. So I put some big bores on it. So I guess this could be considered kind of a waste of money, but it's just more something to play with. I would like to get this running good enough that I could run it in like just stock and then run the B7 in like 21.5 open or just, you know, whatever. And what else did I do last night? Oh yeah, I dropped the wing because the wing on this thing was like literally like up to here. So we had to go through, limit the shocks and all that kind of stuff in order to get, the ride height is at about 15 millimeters. Had to drill out some pistons, and we've got Core RC's stuff on there. And this thing is belt drive with a ball diff. So, but there's been a couple guys that have been showing up with RC10s. So hopefully they show up tomorrow and we can have a little bit of a small little buggy vintage race. We got some new fuzz bites on there. So we're ready to bring the heat in freaking rear motor. We're not really calling it vintage. We're kind of calling it rear motor. That way people can run with like bandits and all that kind of stuff. So this thing's got more steering than like then you even know what to do with. It's amazing how much this old freaking thing like steers. So it really is pretty crazy. Oh, and I guess while we're doing this, we do have a channel membership. If anybody wants to like support this madness that we do for, I think it's like $1 a month or something like that. So probably should have mentioned that a couple times before now, but that is what it is. Hey, let me call you back in a few minutes. All right. All right, bud. Later. That would have been my father. Oh, where's my box of Schumacher shit? All right. So as far as wrenching goes, we have wrenched on every single car that we have except for the low C because we don't need to wrench on it. The TTO2 because it's at the track. And the only thing left on the agenda for the weekend is going to be the metrics / awesomatics / synergy racing car. So, but we don't have to have this ready for another week. We went through the modelizer and tested out a couple USGT motors that we had, and we had a bad motor in ours for sure, or not one of the best performers. So this one that I had that I didn't, but somebody had teched is great. And I'm wondering if somebody did something to it, but it's very, very damn good. And I think I know who it came from. And they told me it was damn good. And it's sealed. So that baby is going back in there. So should have went to the champs with that thing. So we'd be rocking and rolling right now. But coming up, yeah, sometime this week. So we got, this is what I love about CRC is the stuff is just so damn cheap. They came out with inline axles, which is definitely going to help. And I don't need those because I've got Sagami stuff. I don't use a rear spring, but I think I need to replace this post back here. So I got those. I ordered 262 tooth spur gears. They only sent me one and a 58. And then they've got these new. So I typically run Synergy's rear plate with Jim Parasol, who's like, one of the leading on-road guys that we were just looking at. He was the first guy that came out with like 3D printed like rotary dampers for the metrics and these mid-mount spring perches. Well, CRC came out with these new split twin plates that actually go here, and then you have an option to bridge them together, and you can move your tweak springs to the rear or to the mid, and that will obviously affect the handling of the car and everything. Right now we've got Sagami dampers in there. I get a lot of people that ask about GT12 stuff. They ask a lot of questions, but the video views don't get a lot. It's very weird. So, on-road is one of those things that I think everybody needs to torture themselves with, just like oval. But I need to go ahead and get, need to get this all ready for next week or whatever. So once I think we've got 2 big oval races left. We've got the one at Mansfield next week for the Ohio State Series, which won't be that long. And then we've got a Hooters race coming up at Norcar, and then we'll be pretty much done for the year. And then I know New Year's Day we'll have like buggy racing at Mansfield, or they'll have the Hangover Classic up at Norcar. So we can do some on-road then, or we can do buggy stuff. It's just good to have options, and it's good that there's nothing else really. Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty happy with everything in my RC world right now, except for the performances. So I'm just happy with keeping everything running. Like, I don't have a desire to run or build anything different or any of that kind of stuff. I just want to make everything that I have better and just race it better. So that's going to do it, guys. So we've been doing this for a couple hours. I got to get some more shit done, like life shit. So I appreciate all you guys sticking around with you. Tim, good to talk to you. Hammer, reach out if you have any questions about anything. Join the Ovalworks group, send Bill messages. He will respond all the time. So definitely ask him, ask away, and good luck in your journey. And hopefully, like some of this stuff, rubber tire on asphalt sounds like a damn good time. So not going to lie. So anything outdoors is fun. So we'll talk to you guys later. Peace.